You and I met about, what was it, 6 weeks ago, roughly?
Election day.
Election day. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Election day.
Next to each other in line.
We're like, oh, please don't let Kamala win. You could feel it in that room. I wanted to ask everybody, like, hey, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for?
Oh, the energy was there. For sure.
It was there.
I've been doing commercial fishing in Alaska for going on 7 years now.
7 years, commercial fishing Alaska, deadliest catch style.
Night shift, because it's a round the clock operation.
Okay, so they're fishing nonstop.
Yeah.
And so basically you're running 12 hours. So if you're running nights, does that mean somebody's running days? So you're on the ship, you get an assistant position, you start to learn the trade per se, or how they do things on the boat. And so give us an example of like, how would your day start? Give, like, you check in, what, at 8 p.m. or? Welcome, Christian. Welcome to Unscripted with Mondo.
How's it going?
It's go stand right about right here. Yeah, it's going well. Bring it in right about here. So here we are in Florida, Navarre, Florida. You and I met about, what was it, 6 weeks ago, roughly?
Election day.
Election day. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Election day.
Next to each other in line.
We're like, oh, please don't let Kamala win. You could feel it in that room. I wanted to ask everybody, like, hey, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for?
Oh, the energy was there. For sure.
It was there.
We're in lower Alabama. So
Yeah, it's definitely, you could feel the red tide here for sure.
Absolutely.
There is absolutely no doubt about it here in terms of the redness here for President-elect Donald Trump. And a lot of crazy stuff going on, in terms of the news, in terms of the presidency and all that other good stuff. But hey, let's talk about Christian. Let's find out who you are, first of all. So tell us a little about yourself, your age, your background, what you do. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you is because your background is fascinating. And I truly mean that. Because I have always been a huge fan of The Deadliest Catch or any of those shows in Alaska. And my family and I used to watch that stuff all the time. And when you said that to me, I was like, holy smokes, I want to actually hear, what is life like, out on the sea? How was that for you away from your family, things of that nature? Because you're really separated. You have like two lives, right? And so let's go into that a little bit. And so here we are. Let's hear about Christian.
So I was born and raised in Pensacola, which is, hop and a skip away from Navarre here. And I moved here 10 years ago almost, when my daughter was born. And I'm 30.
30 years old, youngster.
I had her when I was 20, 21.
Yeah.
And I've been doing commercial fishing in Alaska for going on 7 years now.
7 years, commercial fishing Alaska, deadliest catch style. Right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So go into that. I mean, so so you're 30 years old, you're born, raised here in Pensacola. Kids?
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
2 kids, right? Yeah. Currently single?
Single, yes.
Single with 2 kids.
It's hard not to be single when you're married to the sea.
Yeah. That's a good point. So, all right. So 2 kids, single guy, 30 years old, and somehow something was like, hey, somewhere along the line, it was like, hey, this Alaska thing might be a lucrative position for me, or a lucrative lifestyle or career.
Absolutely. So when I moved here from Pensacola, I'm a high school dropout, and I started working in restaurants out here in Fort Walton Beach and Navarre, and I was doing that for 2 years, 3 years, and I moved up pretty quick, got into management. I ran a Taco Bell out there in Daphne
awesome.
As a GM when I was, that was the last job I had before fishing. So I was about 24, 23.
Well, let's go into that a little bit. Sorry to interrupt, but that Taco Bell job. So at 23, 24, you were a general manager at Taco Bell and already running the show?
Yes.
No kidding. Is
So,
that
yeah,
is that normal for that? Like for those types of franchises?
No, I got a lot of hate for it within the franchise and the people that have been working there for many years.
Was it because they didn't feel that you
Because
earned it?
I was an outsider, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
I was working as a kitchen manager at a Hawaiian restaurant. And
At a Hawaiian restaurant?
a Hawaiian restaurant over there in Gulf Breeze.
Yummy.
And
By the way, there's a good Hawaiian restaurant
Yeah.
down the road. So I just wanted to mention that.
so like any job you get sick of or you feel stagnated, you want to look for something better.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
I started putting out applications, and the district manager, he took interest in me and he interviewed me, and he wanted an outsider from full service, and that's how it got started. So it was cool for the couple years I worked there, and then
Yeah.
the same thing happens where
It's a lot of life experience. 23, 24 years old to be running a Taco Bell from a manager position, that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress.
right, and then it felt cool, and I felt like the glory of it at the time, but then
Right.
the same as the previous job where I stagnated.
Sure.
You get fed up,
Yeah.
and you're looking at your salary, you're learning more about what's going on and what real money is. And
How they're taking advantage of you.
yeah,
Because you're
stuff like
working
that.
60 hours a week for what? If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer this question, but what would be the salary range for somebody like in that managerial position?
It was around 50,000 a year.
50K a year for
At
running.
that age, and even now, that was pre-COVID,
Yeah.
pre-inflation, all that, so
Sure.
it felt good, but
Yeah, it's not too
I
bad.
wasn't hitting
Sure.
my goals that I wanted to.
Of course. Yeah, and 23 at 24 though, that's a lot of responsibility. I mean, because you're dealing with personalities, and the where I'm coming from is that so much life experience in terms of dealing with people, in terms of other personalities, in terms of schedule, in terms of issues that come up from a family perspective. People can't come to work, and to be able to deal and manage that at the age of 23 and 24, that is such a great opportunity in terms of life experience.
I did learn a lot.
Oh, I bet.
And
Yeah, I bet.
what makes it worse is an entry-level job like fast food. Any kind of trigger, people are they can walk away
Yeah,
and find
it's-
the next one. There's,
Right.
there's 20 other places that are paying minimum wage. So
Yeah.
you learn a lot about people and, just maneuvering
Sure,
and all
sure.
that. So.
Okay, so let's see here. So 23, 24, manager at Taco Bell, you realize like, hey, I need to do something else, man. And you start putting some applications out there. And
I went on Craigslist.
Yeah,
and
that used to be the shit.
Yeah, it used to be, definitely. And so I saw the ad. They were doing a hiring event for commercial fishermen, and they were so the boat I work on is a factory trawler with 130 people on it.
The boat that you're currently working
Yes.
on? Okay,
And
gotcha.
I've been on the same boat my entire career.
Oh, no kidding.
So
All right, so so you put an application in, you're getting ready you finally get a job through Craigslist, right?
well, so when they're hiring, they're just hiring the entry level factory positions for the majority of people on the boat work in the factory because they process the fish and freeze it at sea and
I
do
see.
all that. So I still went, and I almost didn't get it because my babysitter flaked out on me last minute. So I went to the Pensacola Bay Center to an open interview, workshop or whatever you want to call it. And I had my 2-year-old daughter with me. Like, I did an interview. She was sitting in my lap. And
yeah.
there
That
was
probably
other
helped.
there was other people. Well, yeah, there was other people there that they were throwing shots at me like, "Oh, how do you bring your daughter here?" and all that. So the first thing I said when I sat down in the interview, I was like, "I know this is unconventional.
Right.
I didn't want to miss this opportunity,
Good for you.
and it was
Yeah.
really last minute." And there was a foreman from the factory and her husband, and the HR representative there. And the foreman from the factory, she fell in love with my daughter right away. And it was like around Easter time, so she's getting all distracted with the decorations they had out and all that stuff. But it wasn't an issue. So the only issue felt like was they were hiring processors, and I looked into the job, and I didn't feel like that position was going to elevate me compared to what I was already doing.
Okay, so let's stop there. So just for the audience, define what a processor is, because a lot of us don't know what the functions are for on the boat, specifically guys like me.
So there's probably about 60 or 70 processors on the boat, and that you would call that the bottom rung of the ladder.
And they process the fish.
Yes,
they're gutting it, they're cleaning them, they're processing all the fish. Gotcha.
All the hard work.
All the manual labor.
Breaking work.
Right, yes. Right. These are,
you would call it a entry level or
gotcha.
Unskilled,
Yeah. This is where you would start.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So they told me that's what they're hiring for.
60 of them.
Yeah.
Are they mostly Americans?
No, they're not.
I was going to say, there's the Americans like, we're not doing that job.
No, and back in the 90s when these factory trawlers came out, it was all Americans because it was really good money, right? But now it's all gotten mostly Filipino, African, and Mexicans that work there.
Right. Yeah, it's third world country. So when I was in the military, we would deploy overseas to Qatar or Saudi or whatever. And what they would do when they didn't have people to do the manual labor is they would hire what they would call TCNs, third country nationals. So then the not Iraqis, but the Saudis and the Qataris would fly these third country nationals in, house them, pay them specifically for what? Just work. And they would stay in Qatar or wherever for a little bit, a few months, send their money home to the family, and then go back home for a little bit, and then repeat the process.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Isn't that interesting?
I respect the hell out of those guys.
Yeah,
they're hard workers.
They're hard workers, and the slave labor is still ongoing. I mean, that's they're probably getting paid chump change compared to what.
There's a joke in the commercial fishing industry. When people are hiring processors for those boats, there's a lot of hate on that.
Sure.
And, a lot of people just throw it like, oh, slave labor or whatever.
Right.
And when Americans come in, sometimes those are the ones we're making jokes about. Like, even us as Americans there, we're making jokes about the Americans that are processing, like, oh, he's not going to last a couple weeks or whatever, right?
Yeah. They're like, this American's not going to do any manual labor.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And there's probably a little bit of truth to that. Americans are not very fond with discomfort, with some Americans.
No, we're spoiled.
Hell yeah, we're spoiled.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Well, there's not, but you had to put things in perspective. It's like I always use the term first world problems. Americans have a lot of first world problems. In other words, they're not really problems. They're just first world problems, because we're so spoiled. Like, for example, the homeowners association, which I despise. Why do we need a homeowners association? Well, because people believe that it's in the benefit of the neighborhood because they're part of the system in the matrix. And I just don't get that. I don't get that
I
at all.
don't get it, but I also get it because, when you buy your house, you should know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah, but you can always dispose of the homeowners association.
Yeah.
Yeah, which takes a vote.
There's a big movement going on with that.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And I don't have any animosity towards homeowners association, but here's my point from the whole first world perspective. Homeowners associations and Americans will worry about, oh my God, my neighbor's got my trash can. His trash can is still out past 10 o'clock a.m., or my yard is not, pristine, and it's not cut down to this specific size according to the homeowners association. And then neighbors will complain about other neighbors. And my comment to them is, who are we to judge? Who are you to judge the way somebody lives in their own home? Who are we to judge whether that, my trash can is out for, maybe an extra half hour? These are first world problems. These are not problems.
You're right. But like I said, you should know what you're getting into.
Yeah, for sure.
And from their perspective, because I like to look at both sides. Right?
Absolutely.
if you let a little thing slide, then it becomes big things, right? So
Yeah. Well,
so me personally, I love not living in HOA.
Yeah,
I have a rental property that's an HOA, so I
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, it's an older one. They're more lax.
Yeah.
And I'm not stressed about it, but I do see.
Well, let me put it in this phrase, and I agree with you, and it's good to have diversity, but what's most important is what's in the home. What's most important is how I am handling and taking care of myself, and having peace and love and communication in my home. That is the most important thing to me. If I am worried about someone else's yard or whatever, blah 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 blah, that's out of my control. And if it's out of my control, I don't need to be worried about it. That's just how I look at things. And life becomes easier when you realize that this is out of my control. It's not my responsibility. The homeowner association, although people believe is in the best interest of the community, I would argue that it's not.
It's just a profit motive, in my opinion.
100%. It's all about this.
It's going to be like you're almost split 50-50. Half of them, they want a home and peace.
Yeah,
the other half,
right.
They're saying this is real estate, this is an investment.
Right. But here's the thing, though, is that in my opinion, in going from my financial background, the homeowner association has very little to do with the value of your home. Very little. For example, if your home reduces in price, if the values of our homes, which have happened in 2009, 2010, and all blah, 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 where were the homeowner associations then? What did they do to improve the value of the home? Nothing, because they are not tied to the value of your home.
You're right.
The value of your home is tied to the money printing that the government is printing. That is the value of your home. And they're just printing trillions of dollars. In the meantime, you believe that your home is worth 500, 600, 700,000, but the government's just printing money. It has nothing to do with the homeowners association. And that's just my 2 cents. But anyways, back to you, back to more important stuff.
Right. So I'm at the job fair or hiring event, open interview, whatever you want to call it, and they're telling me that they're just hiring for processors, and I was aware of that going into it from their advertisement. But I wanted to go in there. I gave them my resume, said I work in hospitality.
Right.
I understand these are large vessels with galleys and food service workers that if they need somebody, keep me in mind.
Oh, gotcha. Did you because you already had that background, obviously.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's what I like doing.
Yeah. And is this more managing the food service or more doing do you have employees or you're actually doing the food service?
Doing the food service.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So a couple weeks later, they gave me a call and said they got a spot for me as a galley assistant, which is, a glorified dishwasher, basically.
Right.
And
got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Got to start somewhere.
I went in, and even as a dishwasher, I was making more as a GM at Taco Bell.
Really?
Yeah. So
Well, of course, because there's risk involved as well. You're on the sea and those kinds of things. And
yeah, there's risk, and then the hours you're putting in. We're putting in 82 hours a week minimum. That's 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
If my math's correct.
12.
And
How many days no days off?
no days off.
12 times 7 is 84.
No sick days, no calling out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there is. You're
there.
You're there. You're yeah. So what happens if somebody does get sick? Like let's say you did get the flu. What would happen?
They're not gonna fire you, but you're gonna stop making money. If it's so bad that you feel like you need to go home, then they can send you home.
Right.
And they're sympathetic. They're not, they're not slave drivers.
What if it's you got the flu bug, it's going on day 2, 3. Are they like, hey, suck it up and get the work in, or?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, so this is like the military.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it.
I have no military experience, so.
The military is like, hey.
You don't just get to sleep in your bed, right?
Oh, no. I mean, you better be. I mean, the military might have. I think I've heard it's changed a little bit. I've been out since 2016, but yeah, I mean, there are no days off. That doesn't happen. I mean, you better be really fucking sick. So,
Yeah, so I did 2 seasons as a galley assistant, and I still remember I was golfing, and I got a phone call from my boss, who was the chief steward, and he asked me if I could come in as a cook trainee because they had some issues with somebody,
Sure.
and I had to come in and work early. You know, my vacation was cut short, but I wanted the opportunity, and that's what I came in there wanting to do. So I went in, and so I was the first cook, is what it's called. You're working 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
And
night shift because it's around the clock operation,
Okay, so they're fishing nonstop,
nonstop.
nonstop, and so basically you're running 12 hours. So if you're running nights, does that mean somebody's running days?
Yeah, the chief steward runs days.
Oh,
So
I
on
see.
top of all of his responsibilities, he's also cooking lunch and dinner.
No shit.
And the night cook cooks late meal or mid rats if you're in the military, right?
Yeah.
So you're cooking mid rats and breakfast.
Yeah, I get it. So, okay, so all right, man, this life is fascinating. So you're on the ship, you get an assistant position, you start to learn the trade per se or how they do things on the boat. And so give us an example of like how would your day start? Give like, you check in what, 8 p.m. or
Well, my boss at the time, he liked it wasn't mandatory, but he said I like coming 15 minutes early,
Of course.
so you can do your shift
changeover.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like
So
the
you
military.
can talk bullshit, tell them about your day, what's going on.
In the meantime, he's ready to get out of there and go home and go to
Yes,
bed.
absolutely.
He's like, I want to go home.
So you come in and you just get to work. You know,
Yeah.
you already had your meal planned from the night before, so there's no, like on oil rigs and other remote jobs, they have catering specialists or jobs like companies, right? That don't work for the oil company or whatever, but we work for the seafood company.
Oh, I
So
see. Okay.
It's really lenient where you can just say, oh, I want to make Mongolian beef and grilled cheeses, you know?
For everybody.
Right. And then the only thing you're thinking about is how lame has my meals been for a few days. Is it time for steak? Or
Yeah,
whatever,
the time for
you know.
So okay, wait, so let's back up then. So how do they? So there must be like a whole menu you guys plan prior, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people, you have to have a plan in terms of how much food you're going to need while you're on, on the sea, and so there's a lot of planning prior just to ensure you have everything that you need.
Well, the cool thing is you got the same people there, the same demographics for months on end. So the senior person there, like if I'm the night cook, the chief steward's going to tell me, oh, you're only going to need 30 pounds of beef for your stir fry.
Okay. But do they load all that up prior before you guys even leave port? Like you have everything you need?
Oh yeah, everything comes in pallets, and
they load it all up,
and we store stuff in Dutch that we brought up in our cargo
Dutch
hold.
Harbor?
Yeah, they got cold storage.
Yeah, I feel like such a veteran now because I actually knew what that was.
Yeah, no, I don't ever say Dutch Harbor. I just say, oh yeah, Dutch. Yeah,
yeah, I get it.
So for the listeners,
yeah,
right,
but
they probably got lost there.
yeah.
Yeah, Dutch Harbor is one of the islands in the Aleutian chain. That goes up towards Russia. And all
I'm telling you, I learned so much in Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, guys, do shift changeover. You got kind of an idea of how much beef and stuff that you're gonna need, and you just start making food.
Yeah, just
No
prep
kidding.
and it's a cook and one assistant. And that assistant, he's breaking down the hotline. He's he or she is making coffee, juice,
Whatever's needed.
cleaning up, washing dishes, and they also do the cold line too. So they're
Sandwiches.
Yeah.
What would be on the cold line? Was it fruits and veggies too, or just?
Oh yeah, we get
all that stuff?
We get regular shipments for our trips. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Nice.
they make salads and all kinds of stuff, fruit.
Yeah. So 60 people you were responsible for roughly, or that was just the processors?
That's just the processors. So with everybody, it's about 120 to 130.
Holy shit. So you're making food for 120, 130 people every single night, 12-hour days.
Yep.
Holy smokes. Wowza. And do they have the opportunity just to come and get, ask for single requests as well, or they just get what you serve and that's it? Or can they come in and say, hey, man, I want a double cheeseburger and fries?
No. Obviously, if it's the captain, you're going to do it. But we have great captains on the boat, and they don't bother us like that, you know? You hear about other boats, like those large vessels, where some of the captains, they got their special meals and stuff.
Yeah.
Our boat seems very fair. They don't want to be treated special, you know. Yeah. So
I'm no special to anybody else.
Feed them off the line.
Yeah,
you know,
of
whatever
course.
you're making.
Yeah, and so run down like a normal. What would be a good meal that you would make for some? So if I'm just coming on shift or coming off a shift, you're getting on at 8 p.m. What would you make?
Well, 8 a.m. is breakfast, so we do make breakfast every day.
Yeah.
Just like in the military, where they'd have like some. Like a couple non-breakfast items, which might be leftovers or something like that from the previous
the previous shift, sure.
And then you got your special breakfast item, and then you got your eggs, potatoes,
all that other good stuff.
Pancakes. And we always make sure we do non-pork items because a lot of the workers from Africa are Muslim.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. So you have a whole crew a world full of different ethnicities. You name it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
The most popular item is rice.
White or brown?
White rice. The joke is rice is power, you know.
Rice is power?
They need
the carbs.
Easily accessible carbs.
Yeah, they need carbs, man. It's fake.
They go through some rice. About 40 pounds of rice a day.
No shit. Yeah.
That's uncooked too, so, you know.
Holy smokes. Wow, that's a lot of rice. Yeah, so what else is another popular item besides just rice?
Soups. They love their soups. So yeah, I think from
curry soups or just soups.
I love curry and they like it.
Yeah.
But I would say their favorites would be menudo.
Oh, now you're talking my language.
Do you like menudo?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know how to make it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I cook it with tripe and
of course,
and beef feet and all.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
man, you're speaking my language, brother. Yeah. I haven't had like authentic menudo since I was in Austin.
I was thinking about making some for Christmas. Yeah,
man, I'm coming over,
I gotta
brother.
find someone that has some tamales to go with it. I don't know how to make tamales. But.
Man, it's like, yeah, dude. I love. I'm gonna use this term because I can, and I use it with love and compassion, and I can use it. So I'm a big fan of beaner food. And yeah, so I'm Spanish, but was raised on all of that stuff. And menudo is fantastic. There's nothing quite like it, specifically after a hangover. Not that I drink anymore, but
any kind of soup you put in the fridge and it congeals, right? There's something good going on.
What color is your menudo?
I do rojo and red. You know.
Oh, damn, bro! So
and they got white menudo too.
Right? Yeah.
I think white menudo is like a northern Mexico.
I'm not sure. You're right. Yeah. I've had both. My favorite is the red.
Yeah.
By far. It's delicious. And so because I love it so much, and I don't do this anymore, but I used to, there would be these cans of menudo that you can buy. Like, I think you can get it at Publix still or Walmart.
Yeah, I've seen those on the boat, too.
They're not bad.
Some of the guys bring them on there.
Yeah, dude.
And when I see them asking to use the can opener, I'm like, oh, maybe it's time I make some. Right?
Yeah, so I actually have some in my pantry now. And then here's what I'll do is I'll put that, of course, boil that. I'll add another can of, I think, white or yellow hominy because I love the hominy.
Yeah, the hominy is good.
And then I'll just cut up like lime and cilantro and onion and my spices, chili powder, and then I just start to just make it into a menudo that I remember in the past, and it does the job. But man, I'm hooked now. You got me for menudo for sure.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when I first started working as a galley assistant, I was working under the Chief Steward, and we got these big 10-gallon kettles. We got two of them, right? And I was getting seasick. And I remember just stopping there by the kettle and looking down and like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's cow stomach and beef feet.
Yeah.
Just boiling away.
Boiling, yeah.
And it disgusted me when I first started. But now, I mean, when I make it, I chow down. I'll eat two or
Delicious,
3 bowls
dude.
of it.
Yeah, man. Spicy. It's just something, just love. It's filled with love.
Yeah, and we make it from scratch with the dried chilies. And all
Damn,
that.
dude. Yeah, man. Well,
that's a really popular one that everybody
glad we're
loves.
friends.
Yeah. So the guys from Africa and the Philippines and obviously Mexico, they all love that.
Good stuff.
And another really popular one is Vietnamese pho.
Oh, is it pho or pho?
Pho.
Pho. Is that how it's
That's how it's pronounced.
Oh, I did not know that. Thank you for teaching. So it's pho or pho.
Pho.
Is it PHO? Just pho?
Yeah.
That's how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Damn, Americans.
they
You
love
get
it.
shit wrong all the time.
And we met. That's like a whole 8-hour ordeal getting that ready. So
No shit.
So I never really made that as a night cook because it takes so long to make, and I'm doing breakfast. But as the chief steward now, if I'm making that, I come in, at 8 p.m. and I get to work on it right away to get it ready for dinner. And we use oxtails and some beef feet and stuff in there, and that stuff is good.
Yeah, 100%. And how did you learn obviously you didn't learn this stuff at Taco Bell, but
So
some of it just little on-the-job training?
That's like a hand-me-down thing. There used to be a big Vietnamese population that worked there in the 90s and early 2000s that I guess they moved on, to other stuff.
Oh, really?
So,
and you're meaning like the Alaska area, just to or the fishing
I'm not
in
sure
general?
about just the Alaska area, but I know in our company and our boat that there's like 1 or 2 Vietnamese guys there now. And even the old school guys that have been there 20 years, the captain and some of the essential crew, you call them key crew, the guys that are like technicians and stuff like that. And they all love it too because they've seen it so many times. They're bound to try it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So let's track this up here. So, no kidding, on the boat, cooking, doing all your stuff, and then how many days are you out for that entire? So when you go to Alaska, I mean, is that a 4-month thing, a 6-month thing?
So you got A and B season.
Okay.
A season's in the winter. It runs January to the first week of April. Okay. And then you have B season, which runs from May all the way up to like almost Halloween sometimes.
And is that correlated with different kinds of fish that are available, or?
It's just the way the fishery is set up.
Okay.
We do have a hake season in the beginning and end of B.
What is that?
That's Pacific whiting. It's a type of fish off the coast of Oregon and California that they'll fish for.
And it's called what again?
Hake.
How do you spell that?
Hake. Yeah.
Is it a big fish?
No, they're pretty lame. Nobody wants to fish hake.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never heard that.
It's a slower fishery and you make less money.
Make less money, but interesting. Okay. All right, so keep going. Keep teaching me about this fishery stuff.
Yeah, so the longest I've ever been out there, I've done a whole bee season. So I've been out there from May all the way to October.
May, June. Oh, wow. That's a long.
6 months.
So it's like a deployment.
I've been out there 6 months before. Obviously, you try not to.
Right.
But you got stuff that happens,
Yeah, of course.
Employee has an emergency.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
So if an employee has an emergency, obviously they would contact the Coast Guard. Coast Guard would make some kind of determination with the captain whether this is necessary to remove this person.
Well, yeah, it depends. Like if it's a medical emergency, then yeah, they can get airlifted. I've seen a couple airlifts off the boat.
For what kind of things is it just internal injuries or just external injuries?
Well, the first thing I saw was I was a night cook and there was one of the guys had his appendix bursted.
Oh, yeah.
And the mate on the boat actually came and grabbed me because I was in the galley. I woke up early drinking coffee, and he said, "Hey, Christian, come here and help me." So I had to help this guy up the stairs to the wheelhouse where they get their medical treatment at.
Mm-hmm.
And, sure enough, 2 hours later, you could Hear the
Airlift.
helicopter come in and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, that burst appendix is no good. You can die from that. Yeah,
And that
that's no
guy
bueno.
still works on the boat too.
No kidding. So you're gone for 6 months, 6.5 months. That's like that's 12-hour days every day.
Yeah, this last one I did for bee season, I came in May and I got home mid-September.
May through mid-September. And so let's talk about like the life on the boat with that schedule, stress, how you cope with it. You know, what do you do to push through, or is it something where you're young enough where you're just like, I got to get this shit done, and I've got to work 12 hours, and it is what it is, and you just kind of grind through it? How does that affect you, being on that boat for 6 months and working 12-hour days and 80 hours a week?
For me, I like, it's actually pretty simple to just not know what day it is and just work.
And just keep working.
The stress comes from external things, drama at home.
Beautiful.
Yeah, stuff like that. Missing your kids,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that stuff matters.
Right.
It stuff matters. And being older and you being a young guy, one of the biggest life lessons I would say is, if I had to do things a little bit different, and just sharing, is I wish I would have not worked so hard. And that's the point where a lot of men are stuck. Specifically for men that are in the 20s and 30s into their 40s, is we've been told that we got to work, and provide. In the meantime, you can't have both. It's very rare that you can have a great relationship with the people around you when the man is working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And it's just, I feel like, because where men have been told that, you got to provide, you got to do this, do that. And we put that first and foremost before anything else, because that's what men do. Take care of our families, we provide, and it's what we got to do. But I would say is that there are consequences to that I had learned after it. Like after working so hard, and then being 50 and being able to recollect and sit with some things that I did in my 20s and 30s. I wish I would not have worked so hard to make it in society from a financial perspective, and focus more time on me being more authentic to myself, but also being more connected to the people around me, like the family. And I think, a lot of us men are in that same boat. We want it all. We want to provide. We want our kids to never suffer and to never go without, right?
And to leave them something.
It's like, okay, I'm going to work hard because we didn't have it, you and I, right? We got nothing. We were born with nothing. So now it's incumbent upon us to try to leave some type of legacy, but there are consequences to that. And so, it would be lovely if the world was just easy peasy and we all could have 6-figure jobs and be able to come home at 4:00 and then be happy,
lovely, yeah.
Right?
And
but
it's funny that
it's just not possible.
They say
it's not reality.
A wise man learns from other people's mistakes, right?
Yeah. Learn from my mistake,
sit
brother.
there and preach that to my 18-year-old nephew, right? And I'll hammer down on him about, don't make a mistake and listen to what I'm trying to tell you. But
Right.
I won't sit here and listen to my dad or you about, working my life away.
Yeah, brother.
We're all hard-headed,
Thank you for being vulnerable and for saying that. I appreciate that. And we're just humans. And I fell into the same boat. My dad tried to give me advice when I was your age or younger, and I didn't listen to him. And my kids now don't listen to me. They just don't. And that's okay. Life is a process, and we've all got different priorities. But man, if I had to do it over again, I would definitely not have focused so much on what society wanted me to do and to make it, and focus more on the family itself. And I just feel like a lot of men are in that boat.
Yeah, for me, I dropped out of 9th grade you know.
Yeah.
So if I could go back, I would go into a trade or something like that, you know, where at least you get to come home every night.
Right.
But, you know, there's I get to spend 3 months home straight with, you know, my daughter.
Sure.
Without having to work or anything. I'm always there. So I do get more quality time.
I see.
Like
for sure.
This long vacation.
Yeah.
But to say if that, I can tell you now it doesn't balance it out because my daughter begs me to not work out there.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart.
Yeah, brother. I feel you, bro.
You know, as a food service worker and you're over here making good money and a career.
Yeah.
It's not easy just to let go of that. And
of course not.
transition
Yeah.
to something else.
And it's okay. This is your journey.
Yeah.
And it's part of the process. It's part of the growing process and the learning process. And, you know, at least you're out there and you're providing and you're a good man. And, you know, that's what, you know, what matters at the end of the day. And that's all we can do. But let me ask you this. What, for somebody who's 30 years old, you're in a great financial position. You've worked your ass off. You have investments. Good job, brother. What would you, so if somebody who's 20-some years old out there and you say, hey, listen to me, what would you say?
I would tell them don't blow their money because it's so easy to do. And it depends on what position they're in. Do they already have a family, a kid on the way, a wife or a girlfriend, how serious they are? I do see that most people that go out there that are single, you know, that money's gone, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
My boss, when I first started, I did absorb some knowledge from him about, you know, he's like, get your 401k, open up a Roth IRA, open up another brokerage to just play with.
That's what you got to do, brother. Match that 401k, open a Roth, max that out. Get property, get a brokerage account.
I did listen to him.
Get some crypto.
I did,
Get some crypto. Got all that stuff. All that stuff. Good job, brother.
Yeah. So, and that's obviously motivated by long-term goals of when you have a family and you're like, well, shit, my daughter's going to need a car, college education, you know, all this stuff. So,
yeah, and it takes money. Absolutely takes money, and it takes time. And it's good to have, you know, a good dad and mom that you can rely on for that stuff.
And I did my fair share of splurging and stupid decisions, but
hey, man, we all got to do that. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never,
as long as you catch yourself, right?
Yeah, it's a process, and you know, sometimes it might take a little bit longer than others for people to realize, like, hey, you know, I've got a problem, or I need to be a little self-aware of what I'm doing with my money. But that's all a process, and we're all different, and people come into your life for a reason. Like that gentleman came into your life, and just by him having that conversation with you, set you up for success.
Yeah, his name
401k, Roth, brokerage account. All of that sets you up. Just that one word, that one line.
His name was Fook, and I really looked up to him.
Yeah.
You know, and he was such a hard worker, coolest guy ever, and he was doing well in life.
Yeah.
And so I did take him as a role model.
Good job, bro. So. Yeah. All right. So Fook, if you're out there and you hear this, thank you, brother.
Yeah, definitely.
Where is Fook from?
Seattle. He lives in Seattle.
Awesome. Seattle.
He's from Kentucky, and his dad's from Trinidad. He's Chinese Trinidad, and his mom's American.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's such a cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job, Fook, setting you up.
He
for
doesn't
success.
fall in any like category of humans, you know. Like he's just completely out there. He's a cool guy.
Well, that's the best thing is, you know, when someone doesn't follow society, those are the people that you want in your life.
Oh, and he was hated. Everybody hated him. Of course. The boat. But
why?
I'm starting to learn that as the cook, eventually you're going to be hated.
Was he the cook?
Yeah, he was a chief steward. And now I'm the chief steward. I'm starting to realize that there's like a life expectancy. You know?
Oh, really?
When people get sick of you. If you give everybody everything and what they want, then your budget goes out of control.
Yeah, you can't.
People walk on you. They don't listen. The boat gets dirty. Because as a chief steward now, I mean, I have to cook, but I also have to budget. It's my responsibility to make sure everything's in order. The whole house of the boat is in order.
Yeah,
and the house means like everything that's not the factory. So I run the housekeeping and all that stuff. And
Holy cow, dude. That's
I
a
gotta
lot.
tell all these grown men to clean their rooms and stuff like that. God. So if you're the nice guy, then it doesn't help you in the long run. And I try to teach people that I'm training to, be firm and nice at the same time, but just not to let stuff slide. And
right.
It kind of just bites you in the ass afterwards.
People will take advantage of you.
Yeah.
They'll assume that your kindness is a weakness.
Yes.
And and that happens all throughout life.
Well, I had people tell me that at Taco Bell.
What?
At Taco Bell, that if your employees are calling you an asshole, then you might be doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying for sure you are.
Sure.
But, people that are complaining about you for certain reasons,
People will complain about you regardless of what you do. You could be
right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. You could be the kindness, do everything right, and someone's going to hate on you just because the way you look, the way you smell, the way your voice sounds, or whatever, the way you dress. People are just people. And, for all the youngsters out there, be you. And when you're in a position of leadership, be a leader. And what that means is that the responsibility is not for you to be their friend. The responsibility is for you to understand what the mission is and the objective of the mission, and to make decisions that are going to help and benefit the mission. It's not about, am I going to offend this guy? And you see this a lot specifically in the military as well. And you see this in the young NCOs, for example, people who are just coming into leadership positions. They might have 3 or 4 people now that they finally made a specific rank in Staff Sergeant E5 or whatever, and now they're supervising. Well, now this is a whole different concept, right? Because that friendship that you had as peers, you're no longer peers, but your mind wants you to be their peer. It's like, I want to make sure that,
because you're worried about what people think.
Yes, because it's human tendency. I want this person to like me. We all want, everyone wants to be liked and loved, right? But it's just not how things work.
It's not a part of the mission. Right?
It's not part of the mission, and it's not reality, man. I mean, people will take advantage of you, and they will consider your kindness to be a weakness. And that's when you have to set boundaries. And that's even in life in general, with friendships. People were like, oh, this person, Christian's great. He's such a nice guy. And next thing you know, you invite these your friends over. And now, next thing you know is like, oh, shit, they're starting to disrespect you in your own home.
And everything that you did for them, or anything on the side, right?
Right.
That you open up about,
right?
That becomes ammunition.
Absolutely. You can't share it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's...
Well, you try to write somebody up,
right?
And they're like, oh, well...
100%, brother.
You said this, or, did that.
Yeah, man. There has to be clear delineations in terms of peers, coworkers, leadership, management, and then there has to be a separation of those relationships. But the thing is this, not everyone can handle it. Not everyone can handle Christian coming to me and saying, hey, Armando, clean your fucking room. Okay, yes, sir, I got it. Yep, yes, sir. Not everyone, some people will be like, I don't want fucking Christian telling me to do anything in my goddamn room, regardless of the fact. By the way, I never knew that you would be responsible, like the cook, what's the proper term?
Chief Steward.
Chief Steward would be responsible for that aspect of things. And that's, does everybody get their own room?
No. So there's like tiers to it. So if you're newer, you're probably in a room that has 4 bunks.
Yep.
And
military style.
Yeah, and they try to work it out with shifts, so there's only 2 people sleeping at a time.
Oh, I see.
Because the shifts run from 8 to 8 and 2 to 2, and that's AM and PM. So you could start at 2 PM or you can start at 2 AM.
Gotcha. So
there's 4 shifts, and so they're mindful about,
Sure. Yeah. So, okay, so you have people who, and how big is the boat that you're on?
240 feet.
Okay, so 240 feet, and that sleeps 120, roughly?
120 to 130.
120 to 130, and then some of those people will be in shared rooms, and then some of those people will be in their own room based on their status with the company.
Yeah, and like the captain, the chief engineer.
Of course, they're going to have their own
manager,
shit. Yeah.
And the chief steward. So there's like 4 or 5 people that have their own room that nobody ever goes in.
everybody else is sharing.
Yeah, even me, as I've had a couple seasons where I shared my room with one of my department members. When it gets tight, you know.
Right. But I mean, really, you're working so much anyways. Like the only thing you're really doing in that room is sleeping, or maybe just.
No, I do got to go up there with my computer
sometimes. No shit.
And, you know, you got to do orders, send emails, talk to HR, you know. Send an email to the electrician, tell them your oven's broken.
There's HR on the boat?
Yeah. No, not on the boat, but they're involved, you know. And
throw the guy overboard.
So whenever they asked me to share my room, I just told them, just get me a laptop and that's fine, you know.
Oh, I see.
I don't mind helping out.
Yeah, of course. I see that. Okay. And holy smokes, 120 people, shared rooms. That's got to be a
12 different cultures.
12 different cultures. Yeah. Everybody's sleeping and working different schedules. Yeah. People are eating at different times. And most men?
Mostly, yeah. There's a few married couples sometimes.
Oh, I see. That would be smart. But would they be allowed to sleep together?
They do get I think they like it because they get to get their own. It's just one more bunk, right? If they can share it.
Yeah.
So there's more room on the boat, maybe.
Yeah.
And there's also the aspect of their mental space is probably going to be
better,
hopefully, without drama, right?
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
And
that's a lot
from
of time
what I've
together.
seen, it has been like that. You know, the couples they eat together, they get to go to sleep together.
Yeah, so that's a lot of time. Cool. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you love your person, you know, you're working on it, and you can work through anything in terms of a relationship. It's all about communication and et cetera. But that's interesting that there would be, I guess, what would be the ratio of male to female normal? Like, is it?
I'd say the max women I've seen, probably 12 to 15.
Really? Yeah. I didn't think it would be that high. Yeah. I thought it would be lower than that.
So the foreman that was at my job interview, her name, I'm not going to say her name. Yeah, she's from Korea, and she lives in Panama City. And her husband works as a deck bosun.
I see.
And they're like some of the coolest, hardworking people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Right?
And they work together. Killing it.
When I see her, she's asking how my daughter's doing.
That's awesome.
They take me out sword fishing because they live in Panama City.
Yeah,
not too far away.
Yeah, dude.
So
that's cool, man. Yeah. And okay, so 12 people. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot more than what I would have thought. It's such a manual, labor-intensive job, right?
It is.
Right? And so what would be a normal position that a female might... I mean, do they follow the same protocol in terms start at the bottom and work your way up?
Yeah, there's no... It's hard work speaks, over anything.
Performance trumps.
And it is like an old-school work environment, but the, like sexism and all that stuff does not fly at all, So,
sure.
Like I was telling you, the foreman, that's a female. A lot of the quality control technicians are females.
I see.
That seems to actually lean more towards females for some reason.
It's because they like to tell you what to do.
Yeah. They do a better job.
I'm just kidding, ladies.
Yeah. And then we've had pursers. They work in the wheelhouse with the captain doing like...
what is that?
It's like the secretary up there,
Really? So he logs for the captain and
yeah, they do all the logs and like the bill of ladings and reports and stuff like that. And it used to be they were the medical provider too, but now we do contract EMT or paramedic.
Oh, a paramedic, yeah. That seems to be a norm. A lot of places are dangerous places will have their own kind of EMT or paramedic.
Well, that came out of
provided.
COVID. The funny thing is, like, that's more dangerous than working out at sea. But it's stuck. So post-COVID,
COVID did do some good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, have you heard anything about COVID lately? I know, right? Isn't it amazing how it just went away?
They tried to bring it up again, I felt like.
Oh, yeah,
Was it like early in the fall?
Yeah, man. It's like that. It's
like fizzled out.
The people ain't going to fall for that shit anymore. I'm like, no, I'm not going to fall for that. But hey, you know what? Hey, bro, I mean, COVID broke some people, man. It legitimately broke some people. It
shook up our company a lot and a lot of the other fishing companies where they had us quarantined in hotels for 2 weeks and bust out.
Yeah.
One of the vessels, they had COVID on them, and they tied the whole vessel up and stopped fishing.
Did you ever get COVID?
I want to say I did in 2019 before it became mainstream. Was that?
Yeah, it's about
everybody
that.
started talking about like January, February 2020, right?
Yeah, it's about that. Yeah.
So 2019, I was in Seattle and I was downtown at the convention center, and that's a big population center, you know. And I got really sick for like 3 weeks.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it was at the point where I was telling the purser, like, hey, if I can't kick this by our next offload, like I really do want to go home, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're in there, we got to pull out 80-pound cases of beef out the freezer and do all kinds of stuff. And
did you test positive for COVID?
Well, they didn't have tests then.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That was before you knew what COVID was. I do remember thinking, like, why am I sick for 3 weeks straight? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I never tested positive for COVID, but I think I had it. But it wasn't that bad let me rephrase that. It was bad for about a day or two. And then, but you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me, and I didn't test positive, so I don't know if I truly had it, but it reminded me of, you know, essentially how I felt when I would get sick when I was a kid. Like really sick, like really tired and fatigued and had a headache and like had chills. That was the first time I had a sickness like that in a long while, but it lasted about 2 or 3 days. I didn't take anything. I just sat with it, with the discomfort, and it went away. Never tested positive. Do I think I had it? Yeah, I think I did, but it definitely was not as deadly as what they said it was going to be. And just follow the dollars, and I think that kind of answers everything that we need to know. Speaking of which, so much so that there's rumors in the Twitter sphere that they might even give Fauci a what was the proper term, like pardon. That they might do I'm not sure what the proper term is.
Like a blanket pardon.
Like a blanket pardon prior to Trump coming in, which tells you everything you need to know about what was going on in COVID. I mean, it 100% was a money grab, 100% was about control. And I think it was really the world was testing to see what they can get away with in terms of with the people. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you know, I look into it and I see a few different ways it could go, right?
Yeah.
Did they want everybody to take the vaccines, or was it manufactured?
Mm-hmm.
Or both.
Or both, right? Yeah, 100%. There was a lot of people who got very rich off of it. No doubt about it.
No doubt. And do I believe it came out of the wild? No.
Well, the latest report and I actually read it. I didn't read it all, but I read a good portion of it. But the latest report from the House committee, I think it was a House committee, was that it no doubt was from the Wuhan lab. No doubt about it. In addition to that, I mean, they laid out all kinds of findings and against the government, against the NIH, against Fauci, against Biden's his handling of the situation as well. And then also one of the biggest things I think people need to be aware of is the government actively suppressing people's freedom of speech on social media, and they gave direct orders to different social media programs just to silence people, to not combat what was going on with COVID. I mean, it was a complete sham in my opinion, but that's just me. Yeah. All right. So going back to you with the fishing. So with all that being said, so you're working 12-hour days, you're preparing meals. What other kinds of what were some of the things that you weren't prepared for that you learned? You're like, holy shit, I didn't, I'm glad I learned that. Or, wow, I never knew this was going to be a thing. What were some of the biggest challenges that you've had with being in Alaska and on the boat?
The seasickness was the first one.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get over that?
It took me a few weeks.
No shit.
Occasionally I can still get it. But
Really?
have you ever been seasick?
I went deep sea fishing, and both of my kids got seasick. My ex did not. I did not, but I almost did.
It feels like having the flu and being hungover at the same time.
It's pretty miserable.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could have it for that long.
Oh, like 2 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah.
No, I mean it's an on and off thing.
Oh,
so
I
it's
see.
not like a consistent. Like if I go outside in fresh air and stare at the horizon, it goes away.
Then it goes away,
Yeah,
right?
But if you're in a hot galley with beef feet cooking and all these weird smells, like
That's not gonna
it's
be
gonna
good.
trigger it really bad. So, yeah.
Beef feet.
Yeah.
Beef feet smells. Yeah, I never. Okay, so seasickness took you a couple of weeks to get over. Is that very common for everybody for the newbies that'll come on board? They're
It's
probably
a hit or miss. This last time we had a group of like 12 people come on for crew changes, and I'd say like 70% of them got seasick on our way out. Steaming out from Dutch.
Yeah.
And my joke was like the night of the living dead, because all the guys that were offloading that have been there, they're already asleep. You
Right.
know? So only people awake and moving around like after we offload.
Yeah.
They're new, so they're just
Right.
walking around. They're not tired, and they're all puking and looking miserable.
Right. So as you guys go on board and everybody comes together, right? Let me go back up. So my thought process is that when you guys all come together and meet in Dutch, this is like your team of 120, 130.
So we meet in Seattle.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
And it's a 6-day steam up to Dutch Harbor. During that steam, like they do all their orientating and like quality control meetings about product.
Sure.
And
This is like
cleaning. They clean up the factory because it's a
Gotcha.
food production facility.
Of course, right.
And then the season opens up, and we go out and we fish. So the cargo holds like 1,000 tons.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of product.
Right.
And they start hauling in the fish, and it drops off from the trawl deck into the factory, and
Mm-hmm.
they turn it into fillets, surimi, which is artificial crab meat and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then they turn into like mince product,
Mm-hmm.
which goes to fish sticks, filet o fish, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom of the line would be fish oil. So
Right.
fish meal,
Oh, gotcha.
which gets turned into dog food or fertilizers and stuff like that.
Right. Gotcha.
And then that takes an average 9 to 10 days of a trip, and then we go offload.
Okay.
So 9, 10 days, that small group of people can fill up 1,000 tons of frozen product into a cargo hold.
Okay, so you'll fish for 9 or 10 days, and then you guys will be like, okay, we're full.
Yep.
And then you got to go to Dutch or someplace, right, to
Dutch
offload?
Harbor, yeah.
Okay, you have to go to Dutch to offload, and then you repeat that process.
And the offload takes about 24 hours.
When you guys, okay, so let me ask this. So when you guys are on your way back to Dutch, you have your first catch. Is that time for you for the workers to rest, or the people still doing production?
So it depends on how close we are.
Okay.
Like bee season, we've traveled up to 30 hours away from Dutch to go find fish. So when we haul our last bag 30 hours away, they have enough time to finish processing. They do a cleanup of the factory.
Gotcha.
And then they can get some, 6 to 12 hours of sleep.
Downtime or something. Yeah, they're probably exhausted.
Yeah, they're beat.
And then
It's
so
crazy.
when you go into the Dutch, do you have the opportunity to get off the boat if you want,
Yeah, they can go to
wherever?
go to town and stuff.
but be back by a certain time?
So if they're doing sometimes they have an offload schedule, depends on how the manager sets it up, where their offload schedule, they work 12 hours on, 6 hours off. So that depends on you if you want to go run up to Safeway or
You're sacrificing something.
Yeah.
Right.
And everything's more expensive there. And
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. I didn't think. Yeah, you're right. So let's talk about that. So let's just say, for example, if we stopped at Dutch and you're like, hey, Armando, run to the grocery store and get me some chips, a soda, and some bread. What we talking about? $20?
You know what? Personally, I don't buy groceries there, so I might go get some souvenirs or something. But I can tell you that like a 50-pound sack of onions in Seattle might cost us $12. It might cost $60 in Dutch Harbor.
No shit. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So
everything's double or triple.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Man, I have to say, those people that are working, they gotta just be fucking beat.
Oh, by the end of the season, it's
6 months. Yeah. That's like being in the Air Force, we would do 6-month deployments. So you would kind of like 6.5 months, because 2 weeks would be like introduction and acclimatization and, learning all the country shit and blah, 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 blah.
These guys, their normal shift is 12 hours, and they got this thing called a kick shift, which could be an extra 4 hours of work.
They get paid extra?
No, it's the same. You get a crew share, so it's the same crew share. But A season, it's almost every day or every other day that they're working 15 hours. Oh my gosh. So for me, my kick shift might be like
15 hours a day.
For me, mine would be like, I got to inventory this. I got to put in some store bills. I can work at my own pace. That's fortunate for me.
Right. But you earned that. You earned it.
And for the other essential crew, they usually don't have, like the technicians, they'll do a kick shift if something's broken and they need all hands on deck. Galley assistants, the only time they're doing a kick shift is if 5 gallons of dressing spilt in the cooler, like right before shift change.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I'll tell them, like, hey, you should stay and don't leave that for the next guy.
Yeah. Okay, so... Okay, got it. Working 6 months, pretty much nonstop, blah, 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 blah. All right. Let me know if you can share this or not. So let's say that I was a processor, like low hanging fruit. I'm the dude, like, yeah, I can suck it up and I can work, 18-hour days or 15-hour days for 6 months, and I'll do the best I can, right? If I were to do that, if someone was to do that, what would they make in 6 months? Is it based off the crew share?
Well, they get bonuses and stuff, and I don't really think about what they got going on, right?
Right.
I do remember someone saying you can earn up to 70 or 80,000
in a 6 months time. Yeah,
not in 6 months for annual. So for 2 seasons.
Oh man, it's a lot of work. That's
a lot of work, but you got to think.
And it's taxed.
It's taxed, but at the same time, this could be, it's some people see it as a really good opportunity. Yeah, of course. It
is what you make of it. Everyone's got, in their different place, for sure. So what is the step above the processor? Would it be like...
that would be going in a quality control.
And then there's a different pay scale for as you go up, or is it really interesting?
Or galley assistant if you want to go that way.
Sure. And you said galley assistant. What does that mean? Teach us.
That's like the dishwasher.
The dishwasher guy. Okay. So, that's
those are all entry level.
All entry level positions. What's fascinating to me, and I wanted to have this conversation because I love once you learn about a profession, like that much. And then once you start to peel the onion back, you're just like, there's all these other intricacies that you're just like, oh, holy shit, I never thought about this. I mean, there's so many different, everyone's work is so complex, I feel, that we think that, it's really this deep, but the honesty, it's this deep. I mean, there's just so much information and knowledge to learn in that. So what is your mental health so you're there for 6 months? How are you dealing with being away from the kids, all that stuff?
You
can be as transparent as you want.
All my good habits are on the boat. Some people that like to drink a lot, they call it C-Tox because there's zero tolerance for...
Oh, that's right.
Zero tolerance for alcohol and drugs.
And drugs. Yeah, that's a big one on... I saw that on Deadliest Catch one time. That's big deal with drugs.
I mean, I like to drink on the weekends, like if I'm going out fishing and stuff like that. And
sure. Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, hey, relax, brother. Be you.
But
mix
out
things
there, I have a way better regimen than I do at home because that's the majority of my life.
Okay, I see. But you could
So
you could shift that.
Yeah, I live on the boat probably 7 to 8 months out the year. So I'm way more mindful about what I'm putting in my body and
While you're
my
on the boat.
routines and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And I recently last year got into fasting.
Yeah. Good job.
I try to do 2 7-day fasts a year.
Impressive. Yeah.
I don't like to. I mean, I do like to brag about it.
Brag about it.
Doing a 7-day water fast while you're working around food was like I'd say it's one of my most major accomplishments in my life. You know?
Yeah, man. And
like I'm talking about not even tasting something. I had like my assistant come and say, "Hey, is the salt good on this or whatever?" So, what got me into that was actually a podcast with his name's Pradip Gymnatus. He's a cardiologist out of I think Orlando or somewhere in Central or South Florida.
Sure.
Who he did a couple. Maybe it wasn't a podcast. It was like a seminar that was on YouTube. Pradip Gymnatus, and he was talking about the benefits of fasting and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's good for your body to fast.
It's a huge reset. It's
Absolutely.
Crazy. I mean, like I've had dandruff and stuff, and that like went away afterwards. You know.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Just your skin clears up. You just feel better.
You get
in like this primal mode of like, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I was preaching it to a lot of people, and I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
That's looking for any kind of health changes.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Yeah, fasting is huge. And I've never done a 7-day fast. Congratulations, brother. That is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah,
the discipline.
Water and salt for my electrolytes.
Yeah, bro. And let's talk about the benefits of that. So I'm going to go off the top of my head in terms of a 7-day fast. One, I've never done it, but I've heard great things from it. So my understanding is that it depletes the body of all of the inflammation. It's like a reset. Increases testosterone levels, increases your human growth hormone as well. Tests have been shown that blood pressure has been lowered because of that. All kinds of great things that you can get from fasting.
Your body goes into, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, autophagy, something like that.
Okay.
And it's where your body recycles its cells, like the weak cells. So
lovely.
There's theories. I'm not gonna say it's proven, but there's theories that it could. Like a cancer cell would be weak, so your body would target that for fuel and
because cancer is fueled by what? Sugar.
Yeah, so that's what product talks about.
Yeah,
he has a whole nother seminar about sugar.
Yeah,
so even if you're not getting into the fasting, stay away from the sugar.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Yeah, and I'm 50, like you said. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're 50. And there's a reason why I don't look like I'm 50, and it's because I don't eat processed foods. I'm gonna rephrase that. I rarely eat ultra processed foods. So I might have a burger and fry, from maybe a week or once every 2 weeks, and some other things. But essentially, I'm eating just real food, proteins, fruits and veggies, no carbs, and it's helped me immensely.
That's how most of my diet looks when I'm at sea.
Yep.
Even when we're doing burger days.
Yeah.
It's a lettuce burger or something like that. I've gotten accustomed to. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
once you learn to cut out all that crap, you're gonna feel way better. And then once you start feeling better, and it's not about how you look. Sure, it's great to look good, but if I'm looking good and I'm feeling like shit, then it doesn't mean anything. But if I'm feeling marvelous and my aches and my pains and all that inflammation goes away and my hair looks better, even though I'm 50 and going bald, but it's okay. It's just part of life. And you just have to realize that everything that you put in your body matters, every single thing. And it's one of the things I hope RFK fixes.
Yeah, and as much as I like
make America healthy,
as much as I like to preach about my accomplishments without being out there with my lifestyle. Yeah, when I come home, I like to drink soda.
It's
and
okay,
eat chips
bro.
And stuff,
yeah, do you? It's just, but it's and I think for me is I can't even do soda anymore. I haven't had a soda in like 3 years or so. I've cut out sugar completely, and I'll tell you what,
that's major.
Yeah, brother.
Extremely major.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'll tell you what, like the other day, I went and had a French toast. You know, it's like a normal French toast. Like, hey, I'm going to go in the
That's
morning.
probably like a nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
in your mouth,
dude.
right?
Holy cow.
Fruit, I mean, not. I know from experience too, fruit tastes like candy.
Yeah.
Like after I do a 7-day fast
Yep.
or something like that.
That's my dessert. Yeah. And so I've been sharing with people on Facebook because actually that was one of the things is I pinned on my Facebook is like, hey, I want to share how I live my life because I look so young. Here's how I look young. And I put on all that stuff there. And the thing is that, you know, you have one step at a time, start small, you know, start cutting out some of those ultra processed foods. Ultra processed food is a drug. Legitimately. I mean, It is no kidding, no different than cocaine, heroin, or any of that stuff. So it gets you hooked, and most of America is hooked on this stuff.
This guy in his seminar, he talks about, he's like, you're just a junkie.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, but here's the thing. Americans don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear, you know, that, hey, I might have to change my life. And this food and this lifestyle that I've been living for the last 20 years is focused on ultra-processed foods, artificial preservatives. Who knows? The food is scientifically engineered to get you addicted to it. And once you realize that, and once you can observe the mind and also observe the impulses, this is the ego. The ego never wants to be the ego wants full control, and it never wants to be uncomfortable. It wants to be in its little box, in its little cage, and it wants to keep you there. Well, if you've been living in this lifestyle, which I did too, by the way, I'm no different than anybody else. If you're living in this lifestyle and you're addicted to these foods and, you know, you go home, hey, life is hard in America, man. We work 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever it is. The last thing that you want to do is come home and cook a healthy meal for you. So you get hooked on, hey, let's do McDonald's, let's do Taco Bell, let's do whatever the hell it is because it's just easier. But there are consequences to that. And the consequences come in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. And for some, it's even earlier than that. I think the latest stat that I had saw.
It's getting lower.
50% of Americans, adult Americans, have pre-diabetes or have type 2 diabetes. 50%. 74% of adult Americans are obese or overweight. 74. That's 7 out of 10. And you know, when you go out in public, you see it. You see what's going on. And you know, a lot of folks are stuck in that loop of just trying to make it in society, trying to just get by, and they're grabbing the quick meal. And the next thing you know, you're 45, you're overweight, and you have type 2 diabetes. That's what's going on.
So any listeners right now, my best advice would be like breakfast, right?
Yep.
Are you really hungry?
Right.
Or are you just eating to eat?
Sure. Yeah.
You know? So like with my daughter, she was putting on some weight, right? Mm-hmm. And I was concerned
how old is she?
About it. She turned 10 today.
Gotcha.
So,
oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. So
thank you for being here.
My first thing I attacked with that was, okay, breakfast is always, especially with kids now, it's always Eggos, Pop-Tarts,
sugar,
cereal.
Sugar,
right?
Sugar and carbs.
So my thing is, I don't make her breakfast unless she asks.
Right.
Because you don't have to eat. You don't have to, right? Your body has systems in place where you can go weeks.
Yeah.
There's people that fast for months, right?
Yeah.
So unless she's really hungry, then of course I'm going to feed her, right?
Right, of
course. If she doesn't ask or doesn't bring it up, then you know, I'll put some nuts or something in her backpack.
Yeah.
If she does get hungry before lunch, but so I try to be mindful, not like cruel, but so then when she asks, I try my best to make, you know, eggs,
brother.
Yeah,
eggs.
Yeah. Or some kind of meat, you know.
Yeah. And, protein.
I'm a white rice supporter, you know.
I might have to try that again. Yeah. You may have convinced me. I'll be honest. I don't eat a lot of carbs, but maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that.
One of her favorite breakfasts is just egg fried rice. She loves it. Yeah,
That's
she's
good.
pretty.
Yeah.
She's a pretty cool kid when it comes to like her
dude.
taste and
Yeah.
stuff.
Then you
so,
can throw in a little bit of turkey in there, like
Yeah.
ground turkey, ground
Something like
beef.
that,
Yeah, I get it. Good for you,
so,
bro.
That's one of my. That would be my biggest thing. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times if I'm looking at my weight on the boat, like I'm gonna have to do when I come back, right? Because I gain about 10 or 15 pounds when I'm home for 3 months.
Yeah. We'll get you on track, brother.
yeah.
We'll get you on. You just need to hang out with me a little bit more, man.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do is I usually just skip breakfast.
Yeah.
And I won't snack or anything until lunch.
Yep.
And then another thing is not drinking your carbs.
Yep. 100%. Don't drink your carbs.
So that was one thing with my daughter. She's getting, I got her martial arts now, and she's really active.
Yeah.
So I told her, I was like, you know, if you're really active, I don't mind you drinking juice. But if you're being sedentary, then it's just water.
There is
and I'm a dairy supporter. I don't mind dairy.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
And there's a lot of like genealogy that goes into food, I feel like.
For sure.
So like I feel like Caucasians are more like they don't take dairy as bad, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
They got us through some harsh winters. I was just talking to my brother about it. He said there's probably a reason that you see a lot of like symbology with like the cow horns and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like milk's cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are against it.
Well, but here's the thing though, is like
I feel like you just got to listen to your body.
100. That's exactly where I was going.
So I could eat cheese all day. It does not bother me at all.
Right.
If you're eating it and you're getting inflamed, definitely do not eat it. Right. If it's inflaming you. So.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
I can look at people and tell what they're eating by their face. I can tell whether they're inflamed or not. You can see the inflammation in their face. And I think you hit the nail on the head as well, is like what may work for me may not work for you. And what worked for you may not work for me. You just got to figure out kind of what your body does. Everybody's different. Everyone's got their own little biological, physiological makeup, right? So you have to figure out what works for you. But dude, like what you're teaching your daughter at 10 is fucking amazing, because most human beings are not doing that. And there's no better gift than you can give to your children than the gift of health. In my opinion, it's like
my biggest thing I'd like to butt in here is one of my main concerns also was like a kid's self-confidence. Yeah. So when I teach her these things or I talk to her about weight and stuff like that, and she's never gotten, she's never gotten like the obese threshold, right? Where it was getting into the overweight. Yeah. I'm just going to be straight up with her. So that way she's not guessing why I'm telling her this. Mm-hmm. I always like to be straightforward, and my biggest thing was to make sure it's not about how you look. It's about your longevity, how you feel, and your health on the inside.
Beautiful, brother.
So that,
beautiful.
You don't want to make kids self-conscious and stuff like that. Yeah. That's a real thing.
Yeah. And
I've heard so many stories about like talking to women when they're kids and their mom or dad telling them like, I don't want you to be fat, because it turns into a society thing versus like a self thing,
Yeah, no doubt about it. There has to be some compassion with it in terms of trying to gently show your children, a better way of living. And I think you're doing a magnificent job at handling that with compassion and just being sensitive about it, because we're all different, and she's so young, 10 years old. And what they said, the most important time with your kids is from age 0 to 10. There's no more important time than that, because at that point you are their role model. They think you are a god. Like, I love my dad. Like, dad's the best, and you're the best friend, and they think the world of you. And then, and my son and I have had a little conversation about this, is that'll shift as they get into their teens a little bit, because now you're their friend and you're you're coaching them, and you're being the dad and you're being the adult. But as their personality begins to develop, they're going to start pushing back on you a little bit, as my kids did, pushing back a little bit. And then, if there were things that I could handle differently, I would have been way more compassionate. So I applaud you for doing that and being compassionate and having that understanding and self-awareness, like, okay, I'm going to handle this gently and gently push her in a more positive, healthy position. I think that's what dads are supposed to do. Good job, brother.
Well, when people ask me what I do, and it's easier to say like, oh, I'm a chef, not a chief steward, right?
Yeah.
So while I can't do like a lot of that fancy stuff you see, it's still being a chef.
Yeah,
so
bro. It's all good.
The daughter of a chef is going to have a pretty cool palate, you know? Like she loves eating the raw tuna. And like,
man.
Just all kinds of stuff. Like we went and ate pho the other day up the road here.
Yeah. How is it up there?
It's pretty good.
I've never gone.
Well, they had a fire there.
Yeah. I go. I drive by there all the time.
But she'll eat the tendons and stuff like that.
Oh
like,
shit! I'll have to stop by. I've never gone.
She's got a good palate.
Yeah,
so.
Good, man. Good. So as you're teaching her, and as you're 30 years old, you're learning so much about being in Alaska, health perspective. Talk a little bit about what it's like to live those two lives, because you're gone for so many months and then you're home that's got to be just a challenge in terms of just dynamics in terms of with your daughter, relationship wise. That's got to be a little challenging, right? It's almost like you're in the military.
Yeah, so I have two kids. Mm-hmm. My daughter lives with me when I'm home. Mm-hmm. My son, he lives in Pensacola with his mom.
How old is your son?
He's just turned 7.
Okay, gotcha. 10 and 7, right?
So she's pretty flexible. I get to see him on the weekends or whatever.
Good.
I've been blessed and fortunate not to have to go through any kind of family courts or
Good for you,
anything
bro.
like that. I provide for my kids anything they need.
And she's being reasonable and rational.
They're being reasonable and rational, and you do not see that a lot. And
you gotta tell me.
I dodge. I'd say a bullet is being nice, right? In terms of what that can do to a man.
Dude, I've seen it break men. I've been deployed in hostile areas, and I've seen men break from their wives being back at home. They were thinking that their wife was cheating. And these are older gentlemen, and I've seen them break.
The $60 charge at CVS.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. It's you hear it all, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it all and you hear it all, and just
the same for me too.
Yeah,
the old school guys. You've seen it all. Most of them are, if they're not married,
they've been through it.
Well, no, if they still are married, it's usually to someone in another country, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and I don't knock anybody for,
course.
for going somewhere else to find a wife, because, there's different values and cultures and stuff. But
American men are waiting longer and longer.
Most of the men over that have been doing this job, they're not married to an American woman.
Yeah.
Because I would say that women in impoverished nations they value work more.
Yeah, there's a different mindset.
It's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
And they get knocked for it a lot. And
if they're happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of who cares where the hell your partner comes from? Who cares? If your partner is solid here, and she's with you, and she's loyal, and she's respectful, and she appreciates you, and she values you.
That's what all man wants.
That's all.
Right.
It's just be.
And I will say that our culture has made it hard.
100%.
That as a man, your value comes off of what you provide.
Yep. And as soon as you don't provide,
now that isn't enough. So even as you're providing, it's almost like the same mentality as the man. If you're making this much, if you're ambitious, you're saying that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like I was listening to this speaker saying we're teaching women to be like men.
Yep.
And I might push some hot buttons, and I'm sorry.
No. Be you, brother.
So
speak your truth.
Instead of staying at home I feel like a woman is the most important part of society.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones leading the family while the man is
trying to provide
for the family.
Yeah, trying to provide.
So it's almost like they're taking this men's mindset of not being satisfied. Like they're almost looking at being a girlfriend or wife as a job versus an immense responsibility, you know, or contribution. I don't know how to word it, you know.
No, it's a difficult position right now. I think that, you know, society is in for men and women because we both want to have certain goals and objectives. And for some men, it's, you know, a pinnacle of taking care of my family, making sure they're financially sound, healthy, blah, 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 all these things. And now the households have been put in a position because of society, the complexities of society, that if your man doesn't make enough, then you're going to have to work. And then things have become very problematic. And I'm not saying like, you know, women, you know, shouldn't work. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that there are consequences for the wife or for your partner, for one of you being at work, for both of you being at work and no one being home. There are consequences to that. If I had my perfect purview to do it again, it would be exactly what you said.
To like counter some of what I just said.
Hey, talk right in the mic.
There should be some like, you know, you got to talk about those boundaries before you go into a relationship.
Communication. Right? Yep. 100%. What are you looking for?
Yeah. You can't just assume that your significant other is going to be a housemaker, right? Without talking about it.
Right.
So there is a lot of nuances to it.
Yeah. And most women are working. I mean,
and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but there are consequences. You know, there are consequences to both parents working and no one being at home. And I think in general, Americans are lost in terms of our roles. What are the role for the men? What's the role for the woman? And communication is a huge problem, I think, in most relationships. And I'll be honest, I don't know many marriages that are happy. I don't know a whole lot of marriages where people are like, yeah, I'm happily married. It's not a whole lot, and I think part of the problem is that we don't talk. The roles have reversed, you know, not reversed in that sense, but I mean things are just way more complex than what they used to be, and we're seeing that
complexity.
Sure, yeah. It's just you know, of course, you know, you want your wife to be happy, and you know, but the man matters as well, and I think we've lost a big piece of that. I mean, I know you've probably heard the term happy wife, happy life. Well, what about the husband? He matters. You know, his emotions, you know, his thought process, his feelings, his wants, all of that matters.
There's a lot to be said about men's suicide rates versus women.
Yeah, and then also and then you talk about veterans as well. I mean, a lot of there's veteran suicide rates even higher. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's break that down a little bit. Well, why? Why is suicide rate so high? Because for veterans, specifically men. Well, they've been deployed just like you I was having a conversation. So I do talk to veterans and try to help them through their process. It's one of the things that I do. And I was just talking to a veteran, matter of fact, yesterday, and he was telling me that, you know, in his family, he was the guy who was deployed all the time. So the wife was running the house, which is okay, you know, whatever. But there began to become some, the relationship became adversarial between the wife and the husband. And so he's gone for 6 months. He'd come home. His wife didn't care for him all that much. And he's feeling all those emotions, all that emotion, stuff like that. Then he's deployed again. Then he comes home. Then he's deployed again. Then he's come home. So the relationship's just growing. It's falling apart, just growing apart. And the next thing you know, you're divorced and on your own, just like that. You know, being married for 15 years, 10 years, or whatever what he was married for. But there is a deep crisis in America right now. I feel
marriage has been around for how many hundreds of
years,
yeah, right?
Thousands, yeah.
And it used to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to change how the dynamics are.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me that the divorce rate and all that's just astronomical. You know?
It's incredible what it is.
Because it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But
it's fucking broken, bro. It's like,
and then that's not to say that, you know, we weren't driven to break it, sure, right? Because inflation,
society,
you need 2 jobs to support a family and stuff like that.
Keep printing money, that'll work out well.
the money printing. And
Yeah,
all that.
money printing.
So
yeah. So the one thing I was going to say as well is that marriages, younger men such as yourself are waiting longer and longer to get married, and frankly, I think that's right. Getting married, like how I did in my 20s, 21, I had no idea. I'm just like, yeah, let's get married. Ran in. I love this girl, of course, and we had children together, and I love my children. I love the ex, and still do, and always will. But it's just. Was I ready for marriage at that point? No, absolutely not. I was not ready for marriage. So men are waiting longer, rightfully so, and women, in my opinion. And then again, I always have this joke when someone tells me, they're getting married. I'm just like, on purpose? And here's why. Look at the divorce rates, 5 out of 10. And then if you get married again, remarried, it's 7 out of 10. So in other words, your divorce rate jumps to 70% if you get married again, that you're going to get divorced again. In addition to that, and then 7 out of 10 marriages, the person that dissolves it is initiated by the women. So 7 out of 10 times, the women is initiating a divorce. And I've seen man after man after man work his ass off till now he's 39, 40. Now he's getting a little chubbier. Now he's not looking as good. Maybe he's just getting a little softer, and then boom, he gets the boot. After being married 15 years because she fell out of love with him or had a midlife crisis, or, that those things happen. I'm a testament to that. I had my own midlife crisis. And again, so, getting marriage is such an important deal, specifically because of course, getting married and having the right partner, but the financial ramifications for marrying the wrong person is a life sentence.
Yeah, and then kids are just exponents.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gotta. Most men have to pay to get out of their divorce, and then for half their freedom, they are stuck with a lifetime alimony just so they can be free. You think about that. That is bananas.
I do feel like states are getting a little better, right? So I don't know. 7 years isn't a long time, right?
What's that?
Like you can't just get married for 2 years and get alimony.
Sure. Is that what
Florida,
it is?
I think Florida's 7 years.
7 years. Yeah.
So that's cool, but my experience.
Most
with
marriages
dating,
end about 7 years.
The 7-year ache. Yeah.
It's a 7-year ache. Yeah, it's usually when they end.
So maybe they should have put that at like 9.
Yeah, but my thing is, why is the alimony necessary? Why? Why is it necessary? I mean, that's the topic. That's a question that doesn't want to be talked.
If someone were to ask me about alimony, I would say, I don't know, if like you're married for 20 years and you just decided to divorce your wife, I would say, and she was a housemaker for 20 years.
Sure.
That does sound kind of fair, right?
Sure. If she's a housemaker.
Maybe we should, yeah.
That's fair. What if she's not?
If she's working?
What if she's making more than you?
Well, then no, right?
Right. Well, so then So
the man's going to get alimony now? I don't think, I think
good luck getting that in court.
Family courts.
Good luck getting that in court. I mean, the courts are stacked against men. They still are. I mean, it is what it is.
They are. They're getting better, though.
They're getting better, but they're definitely getting better slowly. But they're definitely stacked, no doubt against men. No doubt about it.
Fortunately for me, I've never been married.
Yeah,
so I never had the experience. And then, like I said, with my
cautious.
kids earlier, I've never had to go to family court.
Yeah, you got really lucky, brother. Like you got a good woman.
I wouldn't. You know what? I'm not going to call it luck. I'm going to say I did the right thing. I provided for my kids. To make them not even think about court.
Yeah, man. That's a great way to phrase it. Thank you, friend, for rephrasing that. That's perfect. Yeah. So, but
you know what? There's definitely probably some luck too, because a woman can just, why not? Right? It's a monthly check or whatever.
Well, I've heard those. I know those stories. Yeah. And specifically against military individuals. It's well known that, again, taboo. We don't want to talk about it, but it needs to be talked about. Veteran suicide rate is bananas. What I would like to know is that out of those veterans that are committing suicide, how many are in financial distress, right? Okay, so if they are in financial,
so it's not even like I'd be curious. Sorry for interrupting about the combat too.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, combat.
I feel like more home stuff would be contributing than the combat.
For sure, brother. And Yeah, it's. I mean, stress is stress, and you can't compare one stress to the other. You can't compare traumas from one to the other. So trauma is trauma, and stress is stress. But I would be curious to find out of those individuals, military members that are committing suicide, the ones that are the males, how many of those are forced to pay alimony because they were married to their spouse at the time for 10 years? And this is how the military works. If you're married to somebody for 10 years, they get a certain portion of your retirement for life. So that's what I would want to know. Out of all of those military men that have committed suicide, that were in financial distress, how many of them are forced to pay this woman who they no longer sleep with, who they no longer even have probably a relationship with, but they're forced to spend $1,000, $2,000, $25,000, $2,500 a month straight to their ex because they were married to them. And that's something that society needs to discuss. You know, what is the proper settlement for military members? What is the proper settlement for spouses who were married to their military member? If they were married for 10 years, do they deserve this certain percentage of their retirement because of that? And I think that needs to be readdressed. And it was that founding or legal proceeding was, I believe, in the 1980s. And it's something that I think needs to be looked at again and addressed. It's just my own 2 cents.
It definitely, you dig a lot deeper into it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Should we give people free rides?
Right.
Say they were a housemaker. Should we say, here, you can have this for life, or you could have this, go to college, you know?
Right. Something.
There's answers.
Yeah,
you know,
there's got to be a
we
different.
We shouldn't just be giving handouts.
Oh yeah,
across the board,
brother.
And we do.
Well,
there's a lot of handouts and.
Oh my God, bro! But I went into, I was a prior enlisted guy, so I went into the military as an enlisted guy and then became an officer. But I mean, just to kind of show you the divorce rates that are in the military, I went in ROTC with 2 other individuals as well. All 3 of us are divorced. All of us were married to our, sweethearts at the time, 20, 25, 30. All of us divorced now. And
all my neighbors and all that, all the military guys I know are divorced.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's almost like, again, there has to be, in my opinion, just my own 2 cents, is that there should be some type of, when you take another look at what's going on, what that finding in the 80s, and how many people are being impacted by, how many veterans are being impacted by that. That's kind of what I was going with it. But
yeah, and then the responsibility as a judge, that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
So why are we just looking at everybody the same?
Right.
Maybe there should be some more training, like
100%.
What is this person capable of, or what can they do to help themselves versus just being helped?
Right, exactly. And the system's broken, and I think it's conversations like this that are needed to be had, because this stuff needs to get out into the public to help those service members. There is no higher suicide rate than the service members. Why is that? Look into that. Dig into that. What are the financial aspects of that? What is going on in their personal relationships, right, with the veterans and VA and et cetera.
And it's commonly known that they're targeted by women.
Dude, yeah, man. I mean,
and for anybody listening that's
okay.
happy in their marriage and all that, I applaud you.
Yeah, 100%.
But
it's okay.
You see it on social media, like you're scrolling through videos, you see the jokes about it. Like, men in the military are targeted for financial reasons.
Targeted for financial reasons, and
then obviously men in higher places too. So this is why I wanted to get into like my own dating experience.
Yeah, man, go for it.
When I talk to women and tell them I do commercial fishing and stuff like that, so many of them that I talked to a girl for 2 days and they're just laying their problems on me.
Yep.
Talking about money and stuff like that, and just testing the waters.
Yep.
And it's the biggest turnoff for me. I'm only home for so long, right? Like, what do I look like? It's crazy. So for me, dating, I stopped the online dating stuff. I tried it again recently, and I was talking to one girl, and it just turned into the same thing.
Right.
She was playing a little bit of a longer game. Maybe she couldn't hold out as long. I don't know. But it just turns into they want you to solve their problems so damn quick. But like, damn, we're not even, living.
We don't even have a relationship.
We're not even sharing a bank account.
We don't even know.
I feel like I shouldn't.
Don't share the bank account.
I shouldn't be hearing about a girl's financial problems unless we're sharing a bank account.
Right.
Unless it's something like catastrophic, they maybe want to go through some emotional like guidance or something like that.
But you want somebody who can.
I can pick up on somebody telling me they want help from me, and I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to be exclusive. So I just,
Good for you, brother. It's the way to be.
Yeah.
It's the way to be. Find that one way.
I met a good female friend now that I can be exclusive with. Not have, that
concerns.
Yeah, those kind of concerns. It's cool, that kind of relationship is really hard to find too. But
you mean the friends with benefits?
Yeah, being exclusive.
Being exclusive. Yeah. But the most important thing is about that relationship is you feel safe with her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. That's why that connection's occurred. Is you feel safe. You feel that she's not wanting something from you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a friendship.
Yeah.
And that has blossomed because you both feel safe with each other. And then it's things kind of go from there. The relationship will evolve. But it's such a challenging time. So the last podcast I did was about dating. So I had a 44-year-old woman, two 44-year-old women here. One of them was already dating, and one of them was looking. And they have the same complaints and problems and challenges and things like that we do. And they they'll say the same thing.
Oh yeah, we got our problems as men. Right?
Yeah, we got all kinds of problems.
I'm not trying to sit here and bash women.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. And it didn't come across that way at all. I mean, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't come across that way at all. I mean, having an honest conversation is okay. Having a conversation that may be a little uncomfortable for others to hear is okay. And that's the purpose of this podcast and this, having these tough conversations and talking about things that not necessarily are in alignment with society, and at least poking and probing like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we not looking at this? Why are we not taking care of men in this regard? What are the struggles that women have with dating? All these different things. So, I mean, it just...
Did they say anything about men not being manly enough? Did that come up?
No, it did not come up. I actually had, here's what came up with that is they talked about like having someone that they can communicate with and be vulnerable with. And I get all that. My comeback to that was, I hear you, but exactly what you just said. What I feel from my experience is that when you open yourself up and you be vulnerable and you allow yourself to have some emotion with another woman, it better be the right one. Because if it's not, it's going to be used against you. And that was a conversation that I had with them, is like, I feel what you guys are saying, communication, vulnerability, it's okay if my man cries, which I believe is okay. I mean, I'm a 50-year-old man and I do my fair share of crying. I've got to let some stuff release, but in front of them, different story.
I would never do it again.
Okay, go for it. Go ahead. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Let's talk about it.
I've cried in front of a woman before, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it again,
Tell me
like
why.
Like you just said. I feel
they
like
use it against you?
I feel like it's subconsciously used against you.
Yeah.
That you show that vulnerability and it makes you less of a man.
Yep.
Whether they want to, like I said, subconscious,
For sure.
And it could definitely consciously be used against you. They can call you a pussy or whatever.
Or you'll hear this. I'm sure you've heard this, right? I want a real man.
Yeah, something like that.
Right? Because you're not this muscular guy, but we've all heard that. We've all heard that. And meanwhile, it's like, what are you offering? What are you offering me? Yeah. You're right? It's like what okay, if I'm not a real man, okay, that's fine. What are you offering me? What is a real man? You're telling me that I'm not a real man because why? Based on what? On your belief system? Were you raised with a father? Did you have a father in your home the whole time? Did you realize that it's okay to be masculine? Did you realize that the dad is not always going to be the fucking good guy?
Yeah, just watch it in The Lion King.
That's right. The dad is not there to be your friend.
Yeah.
The dad is there to guide and direct their family. And he's not there to be the friend. He's there to make sure the family's on the proper path. And guess what? And if you don't want to be on the path with dad, it's over.
Yeah,
it is
over. I would say a huge problem in America is single women raising men.
Yep, 100%. 100%. 100%.
And that's what that's what my generation is.
Yep.
You know?
Good point.
And
Thank
all
you,
the
sir.
ones before or after me.
Millennials.
Yeah.
Millennials and then is it Gen Z or what is it now?
I don't know.
Dude, that's such a great point, brother. Thank you for mentioning that. That didn't sync with me until you just said it, but you're right. Your whole generation is filled with single ladies raising.
Well, you know, my mom.
My parents
got
registered.
divorced when I was 10, and I was raised by my mom.
Oh, see.
For a little while.
Okay.
But maybe I escaped it and I have my own worldview because she chose to be more absent versus trying to raise me.
Of course.
And I love my mom.
She did the best she could.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if she ever hears this, you know, I hold nothing against her for this, right? Because, you know, even being a parent, I've never been a parent before.
Yeah.
You know, this is my first time doing this.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Or whatever, right? So maybe my role models still came from like hanging out with friends, my older brothers, their friends, you know, mixing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like being stuck in a house with a woman.
I see.
So I feel like maybe my worldview was shifted a little bit in my own favor. And that didn't come with its own, that came with its own shortfalls too, with getting in trouble, you know.
Yeah.
What unsupervised boys do when they're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And don't have parental supervision at all.
Right.
So,
yeah.
but would I take that over being stuck in a house with a woman all the way up till I was 18? If I could do it again, I'd probably go the same route.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was your journey.
Yeah.
And we all have our journey, and you learn from that. I mean, I'll be honest, brother. Like, I don't know you all that well, but for you, at your age, you got it. Does that make sense to you? Like at your age, you understand what's going on. I mean, you're doing all the great things, bro. And this is man. And this is a testament to what you've done and what you've been through. Everything shapes you. Everything, all the challenges, all the mistakes, all the lessons, it just shapes us and polishes us. And for you to be where you're at your age is phenomenal, brother. Like, I mean, you're way ahead of your peers. And it's not about, you know, materialistic things. It's about, you know, being the human and understanding what it's like to live in this human experience and being able to observe all the things that are going on and not, you know, necessarily just reacting. And you're that guy. I mean, you're doing it, brother.
And just to be fair to the single moms out there and all that
we love you, single moms. It's not against you.
I would like to maybe ask you, Armando,
Sure.
what do you feel about would be the negative qualities of being raised by fathers without women in the household?
Well, for one, you know,
because there has to be something, right?
It's got to be a balance.
It's probably an emotional thing. It's probably where like all the ragers and stuff come from. Maybe I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Well, women are very, very emotional. You know, so and more so than us. But I would say that.
So having a woman absent from.
I'm with you.
There has to be like a.
100%. Yeah. You know, household.
And that's why I say like a biggest problem is because our systems don't favor men. So you're not going to see that as much.
Right.
But it does happen.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think the biggest challenge is like for a man raising somebody is to be compassionate. You know, if I had to do things over again, I would definitely be more compassionate, be more understanding of where that person is, being your child, where that person, your daughter is at the moment, your son is at the moment, and being with them in the present moment. I think that's the most important thing, is just being more compassionate, being more loving. Women are just naturally more caregivers.
So as a single parent, you need to emulate and create more of a balance of what you're lacking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And women are such beautiful creatures, and men are such beautiful creatures. And when they coexist together, it's a beautiful harmony when it's a healthy relationship. And, you know, over time, we learn what a healthy relationship is. You know, you're not taught these things. And I think that having a healthy relationship with you, first of all, is the most important thing. And what I mean by that is that for all men and all women is to understand, to sit with, I say this all the time, sit with yourself. People are like, what the hell does that mean? Sit in silence, sit alone, and sit in silence and let your mind wander and process and learn to meditate so you can calm your mind. But not only just calm your mind, and you can see how crazy that monkey noise is when you actually sit with yourself and there's no music and your dogs aren't around and you're just sitting and everything's quiet. Then you realize, like, okay, this is a time for I can learn about myself. I can learn about how my mind works. I can learn about the ego. I can learn how to integrate the ego. I can learn how to understand my toxic traits, because we all have them.
Just being self-aware.
Being self-aware. Like what are my toxic traits? You know, am I too type A here? Am I over aggressive here? Am I not being, you know, self-aware here? I'm not being more compassionate here. You know, these are all my toxic traits.
Those blinders, just removing your blinders.
Yeah. But again,
looking
like,
at yourself from a third perspective.
And that's it's so I always tell people is learn to be the observer of your mind, because you are not your mind. And then once you realize that, then you can realize, like, oh, I did this. This is a toxic trait. I need to work on that. I did that. This is a toxic trait. I need to work on that. But it's a process for everyone. And the thing is that not everyone is where you and I are at. Not everyone is here. They're not self-aware. It's ego. I need this. Swipe the credit card. I need this. Swipe the credit. They just porn, weed, alcohol, boom, whatever it is, I want it. Social media, right? Food, just give it to me, give it to me. Well, those are all toxic traits. You have to learn to manage this crazy thing that we call, you know, life that's here, because everything is so fast-paced here. So, you know, again, is understanding who you are, understanding your toxic traits, and then the hardest thing in the world is to have a relationship with your partner, because that brings out all your shit. It brings out all your insecurities.
That's one of the funny things about relationships is you hide all that.
Yeah,
you know?
brother. You're going to hide it.
There's layers of it.
Yes.
So you're in, like, I always call it like the shitting with the door open phase, you know, like where you start learning about another person.
That's the third month.
Yeah, or like farting next to them, something like that.
Yeah,
so
being a human.
Like that, yeah.
I'm stinky today.
You don't do any of that.
No.
Whenever, you know, like,
yeah.
Imagine you're mowing the lawn and you're dating a girl for like a month and she's like, hey, I'm coming over. You're going to be racing to the shower, right?
You're right.
If it's your wife, you're going to finish mowing the lawn.
You're going to finish mowing the lawn. Yeah.
You don't care.
Yeah,
because you're sweaty, you got grass all over you. Who cares?
Yeah, she's going to love you for you, you know, just regardless, stinky or not.
I've realized that if I'm dating, things are going to happen 100% organically.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting up anything at all.
Yeah.
So I went on a date, and it's funny because I was like, I'm looking at all my clothes, right? And I've been out of the game so long, I'm just like, oh, I got paint and dirt on all my stuff. Like, I don't even have going out clothes anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And I could, but I don't care.
I'm with you.
So, you know what?
I'm in the same spot.
And I was like, yeah, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
If she doesn't like that, then
hit the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful, man.
I mean, I'll definitely, like, I don't need to explain myself, but I will be like, hey, you know, like,
yeah,
this is just who I am. You know, I work a lot. I do stuff when I'm home. I like to paint and do landscaping at home or help fix my house up or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I think the best thing you can do, and I had to learn this too, like, you know, after I got my divorce and I went on my first dates, is I tried to be this, you know, this somebody who I wasn't, you know. I was just like, I tried to be that avatar that I was with the ex. Like, I wasn't that guy anymore. I'm this dude.
That's a good way to put it, avatar.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not that avatar anymore. I mean, I shed all that. I had to shed that materialism, consumerism. I shed all of that. So now here's who I am. I barely wear shoes. I barely wear pants. And guess what? I smoke marijuana almost every night. And as in terms of relaxation, and this is who I am. And take it or leave it. And you don't like it, then hit it.
Even
hit the road.
Even with my truck, like I scratched the hood or something. I'm like,
Who cares?
Who the fuck cares? You know, I'm not worried about people in traffic going, oh my God, it's a scratch hood.
Right.
And nobody's even doing that anyways. That's like some scenario we're creating in our mind.
Dude, yeah. So you've escaped the matrix.
Yeah.
So beautiful story, dude. I did the same thing. And my car is a piece of crap. You know, the X
I saw your little dent on
yeah,
there when I pulled
dude,
up.
dude.
I'm not sitting there judging you for it.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. And people will come to me like, oh, what happened to your car? I'm just like, oh, I ran into somebody. And I did it. It was my own fault. And they're like, were you going to get it fixed? I'm like, no. I'm like, it's 14 years old. I said, I don't.
Works.
It's a piece of
gets from point A
plastic.
to point B,
But that's where Americans are at. Oh my God, you got a dent in your car? Ooh, you don't wear shoes and you smoke pot? You must be a freak, right? I mean, that's just where people are at. That's how they'll judge you. I'm like, I don't give a shit about my car. I mean, it's like again, it goes back to that HOA thing. If you're so worried about how people are looking at you, you've got work to do on yourself, man. I don't care what you think of me.
I'll fix my car up if I want to sell it.
Yeah,
you know, if
exactly.
I'm like so worried about it. But
exactly, dude. Yeah, it's but you know, this is the world that we live in. And so now with all the craziness, I always tell people is like, you know, we have to manage it. Like manage this up here. Manage the mind, you know, it's never. I feel like it's never been harder to make it in America, specifically for the youngsters like yourself. I mean, the inflation's out the gazoo, the economy's broken, blah 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 blah. You've got a great job, you're doing well, but most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and it's just society's hard, brother. It's just where we're at.
Yeah, I'm doing well, but I'm also at a great sacrifice.
Correct.
But the opportunities out there.
Yeah.
For anybody listening,
Absolutely.
If you're struggling,
brother.
if you're not in the situation you want to be in, you can go out there to these oil fields, commercial fishing, get in there. When you're there, they're feeding you, they're housing you,
taking care of you,
and you can hunker down for a couple of years and come up, you know,
and rebuild,
or you can get in and get out, or you can grow with them, you know, if you're.
Yeah,
you know,
sure. Yeah. Well, I thank you, brother. I thank you for sharing your story and for being here. And honestly, this is such a great conversation because it's just an authentic conversation, and nothing beats authenticity. Nothing does. I mean, you can be the fakest person in the world, and you can be a miserable person inside. You know, and authenticity is the best way to live, in my opinion. Live the life that you want to live, and if people don't want to be around you for you being the way that you are, or vice versa, then so be it. Be you.
Well, that's funny you say that because some of my family, you know, they're asking what I'm doing today. I'm like, oh, I'm doing like a podcast, and they're like, oh, who is it?
They're like, who's this guy?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this guy I met at the polls, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, how many views does he have?
Like one.
I was like,
gotta start somewhere, baby.
I don't care. I didn't look it up because who the fuck am I? I'm not,
exactly.
You know,
man.
I'm not Kim Kardashian. You know, like I'm not.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, it's just cool to do it.
Yeah, you know? Man. And you got to start somewhere. You got to have good conversations with people, and this is how you change the world. It's one small step at a time. But the way you change the world was with honesty and truth. This is how, you know, I'm feeling. This is what I've been through, and please learn from my experience. And there's nothing wrong with just good conversation. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Thanks, dude.
Yes, sir.
Good job, man.